All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in our first RAC online learning series, Rooting Congregational Life in the Environment. We're excited to start this four-part series to share best practices, ask questions, and hear from leaders in the Reform movement about their important work. This webinar series is meant for any congregational leader who wants to learn more about the environment and specifically what we can do in our congregations to combat climate change. Whether your congregation has not yet started in these efforts, or if your congregation has taken advanced steps to green your building and community, we welcome your thoughts and questions. Historically, the Religious Action Center has fought to combat climate change, protect endangered species, and advocate for clean air, clean water, and food justice. We are called to do so by our faith to be partners with God in the ongoing work of creation. We've chosen to focus on climate change and energy because these are the topics that can be addressed more tangibly in a congregational setting. Throughout the series, we will discuss greening activities, gardens and food justice, programming and advocacy as they pertain to climate change and energy. A few reminders before we get started. There's a Q&A box in your toolbar. Please feel free to use this throughout the webinar to ask questions of our presenters, and we'll answer your questions towards the end. Please be sure to put your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. There's also a poll available, which I encourage you to complete at any point during the webinar. It asks what greening activities your congregation is engaged in currently. We just want to get a sense of where congregations are in this work and how we can provide resources to help your work move forward. A recording of this webinar will be posted in the Greening and Environmentalism group in the tent. If you're unfamiliar, the tent is the Reform movement social media platform where congregational leaders can share, collaborate, and learn together. If you are not yet a member of the tent, I highly recommend going to urj.org/thetent to join. Additionally, the presenters throughout the series will be posting their resources, projects, and experiences in the Greening and Environmentalism group. I invite all of you to participate in this conversation and to share your own greening projects and questions. Today we'll be introducing GreenFaith, an interfaith coalition for the environment and a partner of the RAC. Stacey Keannely, who I will introduce in a little bit, will present the GreenFaith Energy Shield program in which your congregation can enroll. We will also hear from Ron Schulhoff and Michelle Sterling about the Zero Waste Initiative they've successfully implemented at Westchester Reformed Temple. And then we will present some low-cost, low-barrier ways your congregation can be more environmentally friendly. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Julie Bank. Julie is the Vice President of Social Justice at University Synagogue in Los Angeles. She serves as the chair of the Economic Task Force for the National Commission on Social Action for the Reformed Jewish Movement, as well as a trustee for the North American Board of the Union for Reform Judaism. Under Julie's direction, University Synagogue was the first congregation in the Reform movement to graduate from the GreenFaith Energy Shield program. Take it away, Julie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And Liz, thank you for all of your amazing work on this. It's so important and I'm so happy to be a part of it. I'm just gonna tell everybody how this came about and how we decided to do it and kind of the quick process and what our congregation gained from it. When I was at Consultation on Conscience 2 years ago, I heard Isaac Newell present a variety of programs that were RAC initiatives, and one of my goals is, as VP of Tikkun Olam at University Synagogue, is to bring back as many of the national initiatives that RAC is really supporting as I can. And this really spoke to me, being from California, where environment is of utmost importance, and my husband and I try to do some things in our own home. I just thought this was a really natural fit for our congregation. And I also, in my little bit of competitive nature, realized that no other congregations had earned the Energy Shield, and a lot of churches had. So I was really ready to take the lead on this and have our congregation go for it. So basically what we did, and sorry, I took some notes because I don't want to really miss anything. What was key for us is really finding a group of people to take the initiative. We were lucky enough to have a great rabbinic intern, Molly Plotnick, who was interested in having this as part of her portfolio and is also really a champion of the environment. So it was a natural fit. And also what was really key is our plant manager was completely on board. And that was I want to stress that was so instrumental. She also has a natural affinity towards being an environmentalist, but if a congregation who's working on this can find that staff person who can move it forward internally, it's hugely helpful. She was such an asset to us. So basically what we did is we kind of got together in a small group and figured out like what do we need to do, and decided to bring in, and it was actually great, it re-engaged an older gentleman who had been very involved in capital improvements that we had done several years ago, and he had sort of not been marginally involved since. And he was very excited about this and basically was able to guide us through the things that we already had in place and what we needed to do. What we already had a really good start on light bulbs, and we were able to finish that up. And we were also, we were already temperature controlled in much of our synagogue, and we built on that, and we were able to meet the requirements for the energy shield and not have to do too much in that area. We also already have a sustainable oneg. I can't remember if that was part of it. I don't think it was, but that's just a little aside. So that's how we got going. He really helped us because he already knew the building, and so did Bonnie, our plant manager. So we were able to kind of check off the list. One of the real benefits was for us, besides the obvious environmental benefits, was really engaging our congregation. And everyone in California is like, you know, an environmentalist, and everyone tries to do their thing. But I think when you're, you have to really walk the walk and talk the talk. And if we're encouraging our congregants to sign a pledge to do this at home, we really felt like we had to be able to say to them, like, look what we're doing as a congregation as a whole, and how we are really affecting what's happening in our community. As a big building on Sunset Boulevard, we're setting a huge example, and saving money with our energy bills, and really helping the environment. One of the challenges for us was actually getting those pledges signed. Part of, I guess, later on, you guys will learn that, you know, that part of the energy shield is having, I believe it's 10%, I might be wrong on that percentage, of your congregants sign a pledge saying that they are going to work towards or do the same things that we're doing as a congregation in our own physical building. And that was a big challenge, a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. People got nervous and didn't want to commit to something. And once we were able to really talk through it with people, it became a little bit easier. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, you have to go home and do all these things right now. It's, you know, please work toward doing these things. And that was helpful. We ended up having to brainstorm a lot. And we started at the board level, and I took the pledges to a board meeting and basically had all of our board members sign them. And then it kind of trickled down from there. We had some key Havarot sign them. We took it to Purim. We also had them available after Shabbat services and things like that. So it took us a little bit, but we got there, and once people understood it more, it was a very exciting thing. I think our challenge for the future is to not kind of sit on our laurels, but actually continue to fulfill our obligations as an Energy Shield congregation, and to continue to work on changing the culture of our congregants and doing as much as we can and setting an example for people in what we do in our building and what they can do in their homes. So that's pretty much how we did it, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end if anyone has questions.
Great, thank you so much, Julie, and congratulations again to University Synagogue for being the first congregation in the Reform movement to graduate from the Energy Shield program. Like Julie said, if anyone has any questions for her or any presenter throughout the webinar, please be sure to submit them in the Q&A box and they'll be answered towards the end. I'm going to turn it over to Stacey, who will tell you a little bit more about the Energy Shield program and how you can enroll. Stacey is the Director of Leadership and Training at GreenFaith, and in her 10 years at the organization, she's created and ran a variety of programs to help people of faith and their communities become environmental leaders, including the GreenFaith certification, Shield, fellowship, and convergence programs. Through these programs, Stacey provides resources and mentoring, as well as opportunities for community building, which enable congregations and their members to put faith in action for the earth.
Thanks so much, Liz. And it's really, really great to be with you all. And I'm happy I'm following Julie, who gave you a really sort of personal snapshot of what this program looks like. We've had a partnership with the RAC for many years, and we're really excited to take it to another level and to introduce the GreenFaith Energy Shield to all of you and talk through how it works. And then, of course, as Julie mentioned, we'll get to some questions at the end. So my name is Stacey Keannely. I'm director of this GreenFaith Shield program. So, Carrie, you can go to the next slide. So just as a way of sort of overall foundation or backdrop, for those of you who may have never heard of GreenFaith before, or maybe you've heard of us, but you're not sure who we are, I just wanted to walk through very briefly what we do and what our mission is. So GreenFaith inspires and educates. So a lot of what we do is to offer up curricula and webinars and other platforms to educate the faith-based community on environmental issues. We also, Carrie, thanks. We also mobilize. So we believe that it's not just enough to educate. You need to get people mobilized, so taking action in their communities. And this runs everything from greening programs like the Energy Shield I'll talk about with you today, to vigils and advocacy and many different ways of getting people of faith and their communities to take action. And we're interfaith. So that's an important piece to remember. We have this partnership, obviously, with the Reform movement, but we work with people of all faiths all across the world. So that includes Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, obviously the Jewish community. And so you name it, we work with those communities. And we also try to create relationships within those communities and with each other so we can do this interfaith work together. And lastly, we really have the overall goal of moving towards environmental leadership. So the program I'll talk about today is more of a beginner level program, but we have many other ways that we work with the religious community to help them take action and to move up towards really transforming their communities and transforming their entire ethos as a community. And lastly, what I like to say is we're a one-stop shop. So this one program I'm going to talk about here today, the Shield program, is just one of many. So I encourage you to go to our website, greenfaith.org, to see many other different resources we have and other programs we have for congregations and people at all levels. So what we're really focused on today is the GreenFaith Shield. And there are two of these shields available, energy and water. I'll walk through most of the Energy Shield today, but I will also provide some examples on water. And really, the way you can think of the Shield is a sort of mini certification. And what I mean by that is it's a program that you can do in just a few months' time, and you can earn recognition for your good work and really have some substantial results. You can see really good results from this program without having to commit several years, let's say, towards it. It's really something you can commit just a few months towards and have good results and really get your community engaged on these issues. So it's manageable, and we often like to say it's plug and play. And what we mean by that is we provide you everything you need to be able to do this program and to hit the ground running. So I want you to take a second just to read these quotes here on your screen. So you'll see a couple common threads here. And these are just a few quotes from participants in our Water Shield program. And what you'll see here is that this program, this SHIELD program, doesn't take a whole lot of time to really see the good results, as I mentioned a moment ago. So it doesn't overtax your volunteers, because most of us are getting this stuff done with volunteers. It doesn't overtax your rabbi, but it allows you to really achieve some good environmental results and also educational and outreach results for the community. And it can be quite an impressive program. So for your board, and as you heard Julie mention, they went to the board several times to work with them. From the board and that level down to the grassroots level, it's something that really helps transform the community. And I want you to take a moment to look at this slide. This is actually from one of our other programs, but all of the things that this temple implemented to have these savings were things that are in our Energy Shield program. So I show this here because we often get the question of, will this program cost a lot of money? Can we do this program within our budget? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can take a lot of the steps within the Energy Shield program and the Water Shield program without breaking the budget at all, or without even spending a dime, but you can achieve great results. So the results you see here from this temple, they ended up really, for the most part, achieving this. And this is thousands of dollars of savings, tens of thousands of dollars. They achieved this mostly through decreasing the temperature at night and when the building isn't used, and finding ways to rearrange their schedule to maximize energy usage. So very simple steps, but big, big results. So that's really what this is all about. And lastly, a big benefit of the program is that you get great publicity out of it. You heard Julie mention that they are obviously a prominent synagogue right there on Sunset Boulevard, so it's important to have people see them take steps and to know what that's about. But as you do press releases, or as you get the word out in the wider community about the steps you're taking and what this work looks like, it sets a tremendous example, and it gives you the press that you're really wanting to see for your synagogue in terms of these actions. So I'm going to walk through with you how this actually works. And again, as I mentioned, I'll draw from both the Energy Shield and the Water Shield when I talk about this. But I will give you sort of a flavor for what's involved with this program. And then, of course, if there will be questions at the end of this webinar, and if you have additional questions beyond that, we're happy to have phone calls with you and walk you through it. But basically, either shield goes through a 5-step process. So whether you're doing the Energy Shield or Water Shield, you do these 5 basic things. And I'll walk through these in the upcoming slides. You create your team, as you heard Julie mention. You carry out your action plan. So that means you really decide for your building and your grounds what makes the most sense to move forward with and what will achieve the biggest results. And you build an action plan around that. You then hold either a weekend or set of weekends focused on that topic. And during those weekends, you do a worship service, educational classes, and a household pledge. You then publicize the work that you've done. So when you've completed all this good work, you put a newsletter article out there to your community, you send out a press release to the wider media, and you really drum up good interest in what you've done. And lastly, you apply, which means you just send in your materials to us, letting us know what you did and what you achieved. And we love to see pictures as well at this time. And then we give you your nice certificate and help you form up that press release for the media and really celebrate the good work that you've done. So the very first step, and this is really one of the most critical ones, it seems simple, and even for those of you that have an existing green team, you'll want to sort of consider this step and figure out ways to build out the team further. This is critical because this is really the foundation of what you do. We know that obviously at religious institutions, a lot of work gets done by committee and by volunteers, and this is no different, this program. You really need to have a core group of people that are committed to this work and that really want to see it succeed. So you want to have a team of a minimum of 2 people, but we recommend 4 to 5 people that can help to carry out these steps and have good success with the program. Those people will help organize the weekends and complete the action plan. So they'll really be in charge of getting this done. And they'll be the same people that communicate with us at GreenFaith. So we can work with your team and help you implement this plan and understand what to do. The key piece I do want to mention about the team is that you want to have a diverse team. So you want to make sure you have representation from those who undertake education, those who perhaps are involved with worship, or if you have experts in your congregation, like energy auditors or engineers, you may want to consider them for your team. So your second step after you form your team is your action plan. And I outline here what you do in either area for water or for energy. And we outline this for you very clearly once you join the program. So you have a whole list of best practices that you can take a look at and really decide what matches up with your community best. But to break it down simply, for water, we have you do a combination of some very easy steps in your buildings and grounds, and then some challenging steps. And again, we provide you an exhaustive list of potential steps. And what we mean by this is we provide you information on rain gardens and rain barrels and green cleaning products, water aerators for your faucets. So we really kind of help you understand the best steps to take in the area of water, and you can choose from those steps. And then in energy, we have what we call 13 best practices. So when I showed you the graph a moment ago of the temple that saved a lot of money and a lot of energy, they really implemented a lot of these 13 steps. And many of the steps don't cost anything. And of the 2 minimum actions that you have to do for the energy shield, which I'll get to in a moment, they cost nothing, but they have, or very little, but they have a really big impact. And then similar to water, we provide you a long list of options with the energy shield that you can take a look at and decide what makes the most sense for your community. And we provide you the resources to understand how to take those steps. So I want you to take a moment to read this as well. This is one of your required steps for the energy shield. So what this is a governing board resolution. And you can see here, this was passed by a synagogue in New Jersey. And you can see the resolution is a mix of both very strong language around energy conservation, but also language around the religious responsibility, the ethical responsibility for undertaking this program. And so we'll ask that you come up with a similar resolution. We'll provide you a template that you can adapt for your use. And the resolution enables you and the board and the community as a whole to commit to this topic and this program. And then the second required step for the energy shield is with obtaining programmable thermostats. And these are fairly inexpensive, $80 or less thermostats for your building. And many of you may already have these. It's very likely that you do. But really what we want to get at here is getting those thermostats in, if you don't already have them, and then really committing towards temperature setbacks and adapting your building schedule for aggressive energy conservation. So what we mean by this in, let's say, the East Coast is that a lot of buildings are overheated in the winter when the building isn't even being used. And so you would find opportunities to turn down the temperature at night and other times when the building isn't being used. So we'll walk you through how to do this. And again, this costs very, very little, but it has one of the most tremendous impacts on your budget and your usage. And then there are a number of optional steps you can take in the energy shield. And Carrie, you can just sort of pop these up on the screen. We provide you information on how to change lighting, on how to look at what we call vampire load. That's when you have things plugged in and they're still drawing energy, even though they may not be plugged into your device. We'll have you look at the building envelope, really finding ways to look at what you have or haven't done in the past, and then what you might be able to do in the future, and to plan that out according to your budget and your needs. And again, these are all optional, but we provide you a good and long list of best practices. And one other optional step, we just changed this. This used to be required, but it's now optional, is the use of Portfolio Manager. And this is a benchmarking tool that's used by a lot of government agencies, by a lot of companies, to really help you track your energy usage. So we'll provide you information about this tool and encouragement to use it. And of course, it can have a really big effect in terms of really starting to monitor the good work you're doing. And then step 3 is your weekend. And during your weekend, as I mentioned earlier, you'll do a worship service on the topic. So if you're going through the water shield, you do a worship service on water. The energy shield, you do a worship service on energy. You do educational classes for all ages, adults, teens, and children. And you would undertake a household pledge. This is a very simple pledge that we provide to you and you distribute to your members. And you ask that those members then sign on to what they'll do at home. And you heard Julie mention this a moment ago. We encourage you to get that pledge out there and also get out some of the best practices to your members so they understand what this actually looks like for their own home. And then we ask that you get 10% participation in this pledge of active membership, so those that actually do attend services. So worship, you can obviously have your own rabbi undertake the worship. This synagogue decided to bring Rabbi Lawrence Troster, who's well known as a religious environmental leader. They brought him in to do the worship service that day. So you can decide for yourself how you want to do that. This next slide is an example of educational classes. This is from obviously the Water Shield, but this is an Islamic center that decided to do all of their educational requirements in one day. So they actually did a series of seminars for all ages and covered different topics throughout the weekend. You can really decide for yourself what makes the most sense. You can approach it this way, or you can do it, one class one weekend, another class another weekend. It's really up to you. And then lastly, and this is also an example from the Water Shield, you can do your pledge creatively. So in this case, this church that did the household pledge for the Water Shield actually created droplets. So they had their members write on the droplet what their pledge was and then hang it on a tree in the foyer. So it was a really nice visual example of how to go about the household pledge, and also a creative and fun way to go about it with your members. So lastly, aside from applying for the actual shield once you're done, is to publicize. So to send out a press release and to send out a newsletter article to your members. And we provide you templates for that. So if you're interested in this program, your next step, Carrie, you can go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, we provide you a lot of different resources for this. So as I mentioned, you get a whole packet of resources when you join into the program with prayers and sacred texts, lesson plans, fact sheets, and best practices, etc. So know that you're not alone in undertaking this. We don't just ask you to take steps without help. We provide you everything you need. So lastly, and most importantly, this program doesn't cost anything because of this partnership. So it's a really great way to undertake an effective environmental program without putting out any money whatsoever. We only have 10 more slots available for synagogues in the Reform community to join into this program under this partnership. So please be in contact with Liz to get started. And then of course, there's my email if you have any other specific questions about how to implement these various pieces I talked about today. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Stacey. Like Stacey said, if you're interested in learning more about the Green Faith Energy Shield, you can feel free to go ahead and email me, or you can visit the RAC's Urgency of Now page at rac.org/urgencyofnow and click on the link to learn more about Green Faith. I'd like to now introduce Ron and Michelle. They are residents of Scarsdale, New York, and congregants at Westchester Reformed Temple. As volunteers, Ron and Michelle have launched their Zero Waste program, where everything at Westchester Reform events is reusable, recyclable, or compostable. We'll talk about their experience launching the program at WRT, helping congregations of all faiths launch similar programs around Westchester, and how you can bring zero waste to your synagogue.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. My name is Ron Schulhoff. I'm here with Michelle Sterling.
Hello.
So as Liz mentioned, we're congregants at Westchester Reformed Temple. We live in Scarsdale, New York, so we are about 30 minutes outside of New York City. Just to give you a little background on WRT, it's about a 1,200 family synagogue, so it's a fairly large synagogue. We have lots of in-house events. We have lots of events that WRT does. We have lots of events that caterers do and that people rent out of our space. Of course, this means that we had lots of waste. So we just wanted to go over a program we started about 1.5 years ago around zero waste. And what we're going to do on the webinar today is we're going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, what does zero waste mean, then spend most of the time going through how does it work, what does it look like, and then we'll end with how we can help or how you can bring it to your synagogue. So just a little bit about what we're doing and what does zero waste mean. So zero waste, as Liz mentioned, means striving for all events to have no waste, no trash at the end of them. And that's by having everything be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. Some events might have a little trash, but it's really something that we strive to do. We're doing this because it's about the education as well. And so we are reducing our metrics. We're reducing our trash significantly, and we'll show some pictures of that. But really, it's about the education of our congregants and walking the walk of what we talk about from the Bima. It's about being part of the community and showing the community this is what we speak about and we're going to be a part of it. So we'll talk a little bit about how we changed our setup, and we'll start on this slide in a second, how we changed our ordering, what we did at events, and what this has led to over the last year and a half. So I'm going to give it to Michelle to talk a little bit about how this works.
Okay, so again, as Ron mentioned, zero waste is where everything that you bring in, everything that you have at your house of worship is either reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And you have to have that compost element in there because, as Ron mentioned, in our synagogues, there are a lot of events with food. And so we want to make sure that there's a place for that to go and effectively bring it back to the earth. So what you're looking at right now is a picture of our entranceway. We're just going to talk about how we're doing it at our synagogue and how you can do it at yours. So right here, this is our entrance. So what it used to look like is we used to have a lot of individual trash cans, and it was only trash cans scattered all over our synagogue. Every now and again, you would run into a recycling can, but pretty much these were all trash cans. So what we did was we repurposed the trash cans, and we put them all together to make it convenient for people. And that's really the essence of this solution that we're implementing at our synagogue. How to make it convenient for people to do the right thing. So one way you do it is if you want people to recycle and compost and not just dump everything in the trash, everywhere where you have a trash can, just like what you're looking at, you have recycling and compost cans. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So here is another setup that we have. As you can see we have it on wheels because we have a big house of worship. So again, the same thing, a much less expensive setup, and it's on wheels so that we could use it in multiple rooms where we do events with food. We also have in the corner down on the right, there's a liquids bucket. That's because the green bag that lines the compost bin, that's made out of corn. And you can't put liquids in there, but other than that, everything else can go into one of those 4 bins. Next slide.
Sorry, just stay on the slide for 1 second. So just a couple other things to point out here is that the first slide you saw that were all silver bins, we repurposed all of those. We didn't need to get new ones. We were able to bring them together. On these were bins that we were able to get from Home Depot for about $30 each. We reused bins that we already had. In some places we needed to get more. And what you'll see is they're all color-coded and they all have lids on them. So the 2 on the left are blue for our paper and our recycling. We have dual stream recycling here in Westchester. Some places may have single stream, so you would only have 1 bin there. The next one is green, and it's not just, it's a green bin, it's a green bag, it's a green sign. And then we go to the gray where it's trash with a lid. So we've color-coded it, and we've also added the appropriate lids because a lot of people, if you make it easy for them, as Michelle said, if you make it easy for them, they'll do the right thing, but we just got to make it easy for them. So somebody can walk by this and see, oh, this is a paper slot. I know that recycling doesn't go in here. Oh, there's a lid on the trash. Oh, that's right. I need to stop for 1 second and think, okay, what bin does this go to? And just retrain that muscle memory from everything goes in the trash to sort it out.
Right. And we also, the signs at eye level is also key. Our bins, and most bins when we go around, and we've studied this a lot. So one thing that gets people to stop from dumping everything in the trash are the lids, but the other things are having signage, color-coded signage with pictures at eye level. So a lot of times you'll see a little triangle, a recycling triangle on the side of a bin, but it won't say what you recycle. A blue bin with a recycling triangle. Is it for commingled? Is it for paper? What's it for? Or even a sticker that's on the side of a bin. Nobody's really going to bend over and study a sticker. So what we do is we always put the signs at eye level, and they're not hard to install. We made the signs. We're happy to give them out to people for free, obviously, and they go on, as you can see, with a piece of wood and a couple of nuts and bolts, and then you're all set. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is actually the very first zero waste event that we did at our synagogue. So as you can see, we just sort of made this homemade sign. We took all of the items, all the compostable products that we ordered for it. We just stuck them on a big poster board and hung it up. And that was the beginning. So it really was just a couple of us doing it. And we just basically reordered all the items for the event. And that was it. It was pretty simple.
And so as you saw in the last two slides, one of the first changes that we made was in the setup at WRT. So you saw the silver bins, you saw the quad setup. If you were to walk around, you would see a quad setup everywhere. There's no single bin. So once we had that set up, then we also were able to change what we ordered. So like I'm sure at a lot of your synagogues, we had some events where we used real china, but many where we used disposables. And we were using plastic and, cheap plates. And they were just all getting thrown out. They couldn't even be recycled. So now at WRT, we have no more plastic. We have only things that can be composted, turned into soil, or recycled. So when you're looking here, and actually, could you go to the next slide? These are some pictures of products that we're using today. So that brown plate, that's made out of wheat straw. They make a similar plate that's made out of the leaves of sugar cane. So something that would normally get thrown out is actually turned into a plate. You've all seen a plate made out of sugarcane leaves. It actually looks very nice. Most places just don't tell you it's made out of that. It looks like a really heavy-duty, nice paper plate. It's actually nicer than a paper plate. The utensils in the middle that are green, those are made of corn. They look like plastic. In fact, they look so much like plastic, we had to get them in green, so it was clear that they weren't plastic. They feel like plastic, but they're made from a renewable resource, so they're healthier for the environment, they're healthier for us, and it doesn't feel like we had to make a sacrifice to move to a zero waste. And then the two cups on the right are a coffee cup. A lot of people may not realize that a coffee cup, even though it looks like paper, is lined with plastic. So you're pouring your hot coffee into a cup that's lined with plastic. This is lined with a plant-based material. The cup that has the green stripe that looks like plastic, that's also made of corn. So we switched out all the products that come into our facility so that when somebody has a plate of food and a fork on it and a cup, they don't even have to think about where to sort everything. It all goes into the compost.
We call it the one dump method. And it's not really, very technical, but the point is that have everything at your event be compostable, have everything on that plate be food or a compostable item, so that when the person goes up to that compost bin, they know that everything just gets dumped right in there and they're not sorting and separating. So one of the things that we do now with all of our events, we don't have little called single-use disposable items. We don't have little packets of ketchup and mustard and soy sauce. Everything is in a reusable squeeze bottle or a reusable or recyclable bottle. So we're avoiding all those little bits of plastic. We're avoiding the waste, and we're avoiding having it go into our compost bin. And it works. So it just takes a little bit of advanced planning and ordering. But if you get everything reusable or recyclable or compostable, you're going to have clean compost, you're going to have a full recycling bin, and you're going to have almost nothing in the trash. And just one more note about these products. I know the first thing that most people say to Ron and I is, oh, this is going to break the bank. This is going to cost us a fortune. So what we found, interestingly, is that when you actually order these in bulk, and when you order them from the right places, and we're happy to share with everybody what are the right places to get these items from, and when you take a look at what you've been ordering that's disposable, even plastics, it's actually not, oftentimes it's not much more. If anything, sometimes it's the same, or for some products less, to get compostable items. And you're also eating off of a healthier product. It's not really good to be having hot liquids off of items made out of plastic. but to eat off of plant-based items is in fact healthier. So there is a health component too. Anything else, Ron? Okay, next slide, please. So this is the event. If you can see on the tables, we made little placards. You can see next to some people's heads, it says compost. So we let people know. We both let people know. The rabbi, before the oneg, made an announcement saying, this is a zero waste event. Everything is reusable or recyclable or compostable. And then we put up the poster that you saw and a couple slides before, and we put little placards on the tables just to let people know. And people loved it. You know, people feel good about going to an event and not having it end in bags and bags and bags, black plastic bags of waste. It feels better. People know. We told people what your plate and your food scraps are going to be dirt in a couple of months. It's going to turn into dirt and it's going back to the earth. And people really appreciated it and they loved it. And this was an older crowd. A lot of people think, oh, that's just for the schools and that's just for little kids. You know, kids like trash, which they do. But actually, even our older crowd, our older congregants, they love this program. Next slide. Oh, sorry, if you could just go back to the last slide for 1 sec. Another thing that we did is you'll notice we used reusable tablecloths. We noticed, you know, when we started digging down into what was going into our garbage, we noticed, oh, we have a lot of paper tablecloths going into our garbage. So now we're trying to use more reusable tablecloths at our events. We're actually trying to completely transition to reusable tablecloths. So it's not even just about the food. It's basically whatever you see in your trash bin, you need to replace that with something reusable, or if you can't, then something compostable or recyclable. And it really can be done. It's a process, but it can be done. All right, next slide, thanks. So this is the end of the event. You'll see that we had bags, these green bags that the arrows are pointing to, those are actually compostable bags. They're made out of corn. So those were bags of compost. And you can't see in the recycling, but there are a few bottles in there, and then an empty trash. So next slide, please. Okay, there it is. So you can see there's a compost bin, there's no garbage, and then there's recycling. So there you go. The proof is in the pudding. And when we staff these events, like at that very first event where we staffed the bins, we showed people when they were walking out, hey, people said, oh, this is great. I love these plates and blah, blah, blah. And we said, come buy the garbage when you're done. Come take a look. We literally made people look in the garbage at the end of our event. There were a couple hundred people at that event. We made them look. And I mean, people, their jaws dropped. Like, how could you have an event with 200 people, and actually we've done events with even more than 200, and have no garbage? And we said, you know what? You were just at one. How's it feel? You know, and it's great. So next slide.
So we spoke about how we changed the setup at WRT. We showed how we changed the products. The third piece of it was how we changed the mindset of the congregation and the mindset of the clergy. Well, the clergy was easy. When we spoke to them, I mean, when we started this, Michelle and I just looked at all the waste, and we met with our head rabbi and said, we have to do something. He said, that's right, we have to do something. We didn't have to convince anybody. This is what we talk about. But we needed to ingrain this in everything that we do, not just be some other piece. So we made it easy with the change in process. We made the products really good. And then we made sure everybody was aware, because as Michelle, you know, as you saw from the products, you wouldn't even be able to tell this would be a zero waste event if you didn't go up to the bins or look at the products. So how do we do this third part? Well, we talked with the clergy, and at every event, they make an announcement. Very brief. They don't go into it. They do go into it at their sermons at appropriate times of the year, but they make a brief announcement, because I'm sure it's the same with it at your synagogue. We have a lot of guests. So at the end of the event, they'll say, we just want to let everybody know who's visiting. We're a zero waste facility. Everything is reusable, recyclable, or compostable. You'll see different bins, and you'll just follow the signs. And if you have any questions, you know, ask one of your neighbors, ask a congregant. We put placards on the tables to just help people be aware of it. As you can see, we changed to, instead of having water bottles, we changed to a water pitcher and real china wherever we can. So this was just to show the placard, to talk a little bit about how we made sure it was always in front of people, because it's not that people didn't want to do it. It's just that everybody has their muscle memory of everything used to go in the trash, and we just have to change that. And if once people see the change and start doing it, they're done. They never go back. In fact, they come to us and tell us we need to bring this to other places now because they don't want to throw things out at other places.
Okay, next slide. So this is a large event that we did. This was more of like a 500-person event. So you can see the green cutlery, paper napkins, those are compostable, the paper plates. And these guys, took it to another level. All their platters were reusable, spoons were reusable. Again, we had the placards on these tables. You can't see them here. Just always telling people, letting people know this is being done this way on purpose. We're thinking about these things. Congregants really like to know. They're happy to know that their synagogue is thinking about these things. So next slide, please. Next slide, thank you.
So the thing to see on this slide, and we should say there's one thing on here that is going to end up in the trash. And this is part of the reason we put this slide here. If you look on the left, so we have the mugs, we have the coffee, we have the real plates. On the left side, everything is in big bowls, but it does have saran wrap on it. So what happened there? So in addition to all these events, we have a lot of things that are catered. So we reached out to the caterers, and I'm sure as all you know, when you call caterers and they send things, sometimes they individually wrap everything, or they put them in small packaging like the ketchup packet. So we just called the caterers, explained what we were doing, and asked them to send things in bulk. This is what they ended up sending. And then we went back to them and said, this is fantastic. Just next time, please no saran wrap. So we reached out to those people, and we have to tell you, whether it was a small caterer or a large caterer that does huge events, they were so excited for this because they see the waste all the time. They see so much waste. They were so excited to be able to send it to us where they knew it wasn't going to create waste. When we had bagels sent to us, instead of having them in bags, they send them to us in a big box just lined up.
They used to send us, cookie platters that were wrapped in cellophane. And we just said, no more cellophane. No, put it in a box, put it in a bakery box. We have platters at the synagogue. We'll just put it out. So really, for every single thing where it got wrapped in some sort of disposable plastic, we had them switch it. And like Ron said, these caterers, we thought, the synagogue thought, well, we might get pushback from the caterers. It was the opposite. The caterers are so sick of seeing the waste. They're so sick of throwing out after these events. They're appreciative. It's refreshing to them to be doing things in a way where they're not generating so much trash. So next slide. So
this is just to show the setup in our kitchen. So put the right bins wherever you need them. This is what caterers use. So just having one trash bin, we put these three. We made it easy for caterers. They can just bring it out to the outdoor.
And obviously in the hallways, we would have lids on recycling and trash. In the kitchen, you don't need that as much. We have, the kitchen staff is trained.
Next slide, please. And then these are the outdoor toters. So we have 8 65-gallon toters. Now we're filling up. It gets picked up once a week. Every week, we're going to need some more. And it's just great for everybody to see, to be able to come out and see this all used to every week be in the trash. This will all be turned into soil now.
Right. And catty corner to these bins is our trash dumpster. So obviously we have a lot less trash in that trash dumpster, but a lot of people think, oh, well, how are we going to approach our staff with composting, and what's the staff going to say? And what we like to say is the staff isn't doing more work, they're just doing it differently. So instead of bringing black plastic bags out and putting it into the dumpster, they're bringing green bags out, which are made of corn, and they're putting it into these compost bins that you see. So they're doing the same. Instead of clearing plates and clearing the food waste into the black plastic trash, they're clearing it into the green compost bins. So it's not more work for them, it's just different. Next slide, please. So here is a little bit of the why. Ron and I, we know the why, so we don't really focus a lot on it. We like to focus on the solution, but I think it's good for any leader at a congregation to know why we're doing it. When we speak about in the Torah to till and to keep, right, from the first book. I mean, our job is not just to till, to work the soil, but it's to keep it. And it was said and written in the same breath. So right now, what we're really proposing is, right now we have the model in the US is a very linear model where we put everything in the trash and it either goes to a landfill or gets burned. But when you incorporate composting and recycling into your model, you change it to a circular model, which is what you're seeing here. This is the sustainable model. So The food goes from the events. The food goes into the compost bin. The food scraps do. They get turned into compost. That compost gets sold to garden centers and sold, used in our landscape and into gardens to grow more food. So we're really completing, it's sort of an everlasting cycle. And that's really the why. We're taking and we're putting back, and we're not just, burning or landfilling. And this is a sustainable lifestyle. And this comports with our mission and with our spiritual beliefs.
So just if anybody has questions, I know we'll do it at the end. If you happen to be around New York and would like to learn more, just come visit, come take a tour. If you're not in the New York area, let us know. We can have a more detailed conversation with you, share any details that are helpful. All the resources you saw, where we got the bins, the signs, we made the signs, any kind of educational piece, where we get the products, how much they cost, what are good companies, we will share that with anybody that would find that helpful. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us today here.
Great, thank you so much, Ron and Michelle. The Zero Waste Initiative is our mission to get a hands-on look at how we can all efficiently manage our waste output. Gonna wait a second for the next slide to come up. Next slide. Okay, so while we're waiting, I'll just go ahead and start. We have put together a poster of different greening projects that can help you get started at your congregation. Here it is. Great, so I've divided this up into a couple of different categories, and don't worry, this poster will be posted in the tent for your use. Just a couple of, well, before I say that, this by no means is an exhaustive list of things you can do, but hopefully it's a good way to get you started. So a couple of suggestions I want to highlight. To limit the use of bottled water, you can encourage staff, congregants, and students to bring their own water bottles. If you have the budget, you could also sell reusable water bottles with your congregation's logo. Something I'm really excited about is having a sustainable oneg, like Julie mentioned, in which all of the food purchased for the oneg comes from local producers instead of large grocery stores, in order to reduce the carbon impact emitted by transporting produce in large quantities. The last suggestion I want to quickly point out is a purchasing co-op or a community purchasing alliance. This is an option you can try with other faith groups or synagogues in your area, and as a group you can negotiate the purchasing power for services such as electricity or solar panels to reduce your costs. Now that you have some ideas, I would like to encourage everyone to apply for the RAC's Travel Justly grant. The Travel Justly grant program provides funds for carbon offsetting projects for Reformed congregations and affiliates. Projects that have been funded in the past include composting, changing fluorescent light bulbs to LEDs, gardening, and other projects like that. For more information, check out the Travel Justly page on the RAC's website. Now I'd like to get to your questions. So the first question is for Julie. You said that people in California are already environmentalists. Did you find that this is true when signing off the campaign or the home pledges? How did you convince people to sign the home pledges, as many people outside of California may not be able to do so in tune with the importance of the environment? So what are the challenges for a group like that?
In my experience, I mean, that people are, I think, in California forward thinking about the environment, just based on where we live. But I still, it wasn't easy to get people to sign the pledge. And I think that being a little bit creative and also letting people know that this is not something that they have to do right this minute, but the pledge is really, or the way we interpreted it, and Stacey may disagree with this, I'm not sure, but really that it was something to strive for. If they could pledge to work on doing these things in their own home, maybe slowly changing their light bulbs as light bulbs, burn out. That's what my husband and I have done because it's expensive. So as things kind of fizzle out, we'll buy fluorescent bulbs or other long-lasting, environmentally friendly light bulbs. We also, it's easy to get a rain barrel or to collect rainwater. It's easy to just simply turn off the lights or pledge to keep your thermostat at a lower temperature. And all of those things are just things that we strive for, but we don't require perfection. Hopefully that answers a question a little bit.
Thanks, Julie. The next question is for Ron and Michelle. Where does the compost go if you're composting non-vegetative waste such as pizza, fats, or oils?
That's a great question. So as you know, or as you may not know, in your backyard, you can compost 4 things. It's fruits, vegetables, coffee grounds, and eggshells. It's difficult to compost the compostable products or things like meat or cooked foods because it doesn't get hot enough. So what happens with our compost is it gets picked up by a private hauler. We don't have a municipal service or a county service that picks it up. And it gets brought to a commercial composting facility. And all that means is that the scale that they do the same thing as your backyard. They mix the food scraps with wood chips, but it's on such a large scale that it gets to 150 degrees naturally and can break down any food. So because of this, you can put in any food and all these compostable products. We don't compost it on site.
Great. The next question is also for Ron and Michelle. What is the source of your compostable paper products?
So we can post or we could share all the vendors that we get them from. We don't represent any one particular vendor, so you could use different ones. There are a lot of companies out there. What we looked for, and when we looked at them, were 3 things. We wanted it to be really high quality. We wanted it to be price competitive. And we also wanted it to be from a company that was mission driven, that shared our values. There are a lot of companies out there that have compostable lines, but on the other hand, are doing things that are very bad for the environment. And so we really wanted to find someone that met all 3. We did. We're happy to share all that. If you have a company you like and you think the product is good and it meets the standards, then that is a great one to use. One thing to look for when you're looking for products is that it says that it's BPI certified. So that is the certification process to make sure it will break down. The other piece is that sometimes companies mark as biodegradable. That is very different than compostable. That's just could be plastic that will get smaller and smaller. Compostable means it will turn back into soil.
Great.
Please, if you want more information, just feel free to send us an email or give us a call for it.
Great. And then we have another question for you. Are you willing to post your signs in the tent for other people to use?
It's a great question. So you can definitely use the signs. I'm not sure if we can post an editable version of them. So if you wanted, so for instance, we put our logo on it with WRT and we created an email for questions. We could take all that off and just post the base version. If you wanted to add anything, just let us know. We could add it and send it to you. So yes, we're happy to post it.
Great, thank you. Last question, since we need to wrap up. Someone asked, we have a very active building and grounds committee that focuses on historical preservation and aesthetics. They are, for example, concerned about the unsightliness of weather stripping, changing older lighting fixtures that are not suitable for LED bulbs, and even concerned about the look of the solar panels on the temple's roof. Have any of the speakers encountered tensions between B&G committees and the Green Team, and if so, what do you recommend? Stacey, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one. I think a lot of times when it comes to historic preservation issues, we work very closely with your congregation to walk through it sort of step by step and figure out, when it comes to, let's say, a requirement in one of our programs, what that would actually look like for your setting and whether or not some of the things are feasible to do. And then we help you prioritize and figure out what you can do, even if there are constraints or tensions. I would say to the general question of buildings and grounds and some tensions there, that is a very common thing. And what we always recommend, and it sounds like you already have this in place, the person who asked this question, but for anybody else, what we always recommend is to make sure you have a dialogue going with your buildings and grounds folks. The last thing that we want to see happen is that we give you a set of best practices and then you go to them saying that this has to be done. Because most times buildings and grounds committees and personnel are doing really great work and they have already done a lot of this stuff. And so giving them a place at the table and maintaining that relationship is really key. But again, otherwise we'd work with you one-on-one to really figure out the best steps forward.
Great, thank you, Stacey. And thank you to all of our amazing panelists for joining us today. I'm so sorry we cannot get to everybody's questions. If you still have questions, please post them in the Greening Environmentalism group in the tent, and they will be answered there. Also, please join us for our next webinar next month, Food Justice, How Your Congregation Can Feed the Hungry. We'll be discussing congregational gardens and food justice. And if you have any questions about the Energy Shield, Travel Justly, or the poster that I went through, please feel free to email me directly. So thank you, and we will see you next month on February 21st.